So, this is me, Joe DeMare, coming on to tell you once more that we will not be having a full episode of For a Green Future. I am, hopefully, when you see this, I'm on my way back from primitive camping out on a garden island in Lake Michigan. And as I'm recording this, June 29th, we've had a tremendous thunderstorm here in Bowling Green with lots of water flooding the streets, and it's passing now, but for a while there, the lights were flickering, and it made me think about the ideas of backups. I have a backup power supply in my basement. I've rigged up a whole bunch of batteries and a big inverter, and it's enough to power the essentials of my household, like AC or heat, and the freezers and the refrigerators, for 3 or 4 days. And backups are becoming increasingly important as our grid and as our infrastructure is being broken more and more often by global warming enhanced weather events. But there's another sort of backup that I'd like to talk to you about, and that is the backup of information, the backup of news stories. We have here on YouTube, you can go back and look at all our past episodes for the past 5 years, and I'd encourage you to do so. And I'd also like to ask you to download 1 or 2 of your most favorite episodes onto your own computer, because something that happened this past week, Paramount decided to eliminate the archives of a lot of its shows, including The Daily Show and MTV News. And so now that information is just gone. It's no longer accessible. And one thing the dictators always do is they remove history that contradicts their fictionalized histories. I mean, that's dictator 101, is that you rewrite history to be in your favor, and then you go and you eliminate all evidence that anything else contrary to what you say happened actually happened. And so it's becoming increasingly important to have backups, not just of energy, but also backups of information. Now, there are a few sources like that on the web. There's the Wayback Machine, for example. And we reported on how when the Holtec board member, George Norcross, was indicted for corruption, the nuclear company Holtec immediately removed him from their website, and we were able to pull their listing of him back up using the Wayback Machine. But you can't rely solely on sources like that, because they could be taken down also. And so it's good to have a terabyte drive, some sort of physical thing, a computer that you use for backup, to have your most important news stories on. There was a news story several years back, it was probably 10, 12 years ago, about a young man who was killed by the hot water outflow from the Fermi nuclear power plant, Fermi 2 nuclear power plant. And I remember the story distinctly. He and his friends were out on a boat. They were throwing a football into the water and then chasing it around. And he went too close to the hot water intake and was killed. The problem is that I didn't save that story from the Toledo Blade. I didn't physically cut it out of the paper. And now when I've tried to search for it electronically, I can't find it again. It's not a story that the nuclear industry, or that a lot of industry would want there to be. They don't want people knowing that their hot water effluent pipes are actually fatal in terms of heat going into the lake. And so, I've spent many hours trying to find that story again electronically and haven't been able to. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, since we don't have a show this week, go back over our past 5 years of shows, pick out and listen to 1 or 2 of the old shows that were your favorites, and then tell us what your favorite episode was. And then maybe store that on an archive. Store that on a terabyte drive or the hard drive of your computer. But save that, those stories that are your favorites, because that have the most interesting information. Because, you know, it's possible that this big YouTube archive could be wiped out. I don't have any control over it. And the more we rely on the cloud, the more we rely on ephemeral memory storage, the more we are at risk of being victims of the kind of historical rewriting that dictators like Putin, you know, like to do. So, just a thought. We will be back this coming week. We will be back next week with a live episode recorded, of course, in the studios at 100.7 FM in Toledo. And once again, I just wanted to thank you so much for listening. This is Joe DeMare signing off.